Hello everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm Rosa Maria. Today I have another wonderful, simple, easy sewing project. And this is a cute round bag. You can see the side, of course. Let me just show you more of the side. It's more rounder side. There's no pockets, there's no zipper. It's really cute bag that you can make, and also you could adjust the handle according to the size that you prefer. So if you want the handle shorter, you can make it even shorter. But this is a great beginners because you could add your own flair. You can add a front pocket if you like. You could add a zipper inside or multiple pockets inside that you like and prefer for this bag. But this is a great for beginners because it'll give you an idea how you can revamp this particular bag that I made as a sewing project here. So get all your tools and get all your materials, and let's get started on this project. Tools and materials you're going to be needing for this project. You need a ruler. This is a 12-inch ruler. You'll be needing some sewing pins, some fabric clips. I'll be using a chalk marker, and also you can use a friction pen, whichever that you prefer. For either of these two is fine. Coordinating fabric, you can use either a rotary cutter or a pair of scissors. Here I have 4 materials. This material I'm going to be using is the handle and the side of the bag. This is a fusible fleece, and this is the lining. You could choose whatever lining that you prefer, and the same thing for the handle. For the fabric you can choose, and also this is the fabric. This is going to be the body of the bag that I'm going to be using. Okay, you're going to start by cutting 2 pieces of your base of your fabric, and the size you're going to be cutting is 16.5 inches by 16.5 inches. And you want to make sure that both of the pieces that you cut for the outer bag is the same size, 16.5 inches by 16.5 inches. So once you do that, you finish cutting both pieces, you're going to line them up here, as you can see. And then I'm going to fold. So fold the fabric in half. And then now I'm going to refold the fabric again. And I'm going to take one of my fabric clips, and I'm going to just use this to keep the fabric from shifting and moving. Okay. Once that's done, I'm going to take my ruler and I'm going to place it here and measure 8.5 inches. And I'm going to take my marker for chalk here, and I'm going to gently just slide the ruler excuse me and start marking. Okay, so I'm just moving it, and then just marking it, making sure everything is okay. Oh, let me start over again. Okay. Okay, so it's 8.5 inches, and I'm going to slowly move the ruler. And as I'm doing that, I am marking where I need to mark. At the same time, I'm paying attention here in the bottom, just to make sure that it's aligned. And I'm making another mark over here. Hopefully you can see that. Okay, and then I'm slowly moving it, and I'm making another mark over here. And here it goes, it's moving. Another mark over here. Now it's coming to the conclusion over here, and it's coming right over here. So I have that marking over here. so everybody can see. This is where I am marking to make it round. Okay, it didn't come out perfect, but that's okay. But at least you have a general idea, because you want to create that circle going around. I'm going to take my pair of scissors and I'm going to start to cut. So I'm going to start to cut from here, making my way slowly around. So once you finish cutting to create that circle, now I'm going to remove my fabric clips. And open up my fabric. So now that I have a nice round circle, might not be perfect, but it's nice and round. We finished cutting the main fabric, the outer fabric, and we created 2 circles, 2 pieces, same size. Once you have done that, you're gonna take your fleece and make sure that your fusible fleece that you have, you wanna make sure it's facing down. And to make things much easier, I'm just gonna take one of the outer fabric, the main fabric of the bag. I'm gonna just center it over here. Not center it, but move it to this, more here. And I'm gonna take my sewing pin and I'm gonna use that to secure the fabric and the fusible fleece together. So I'm gonna do the same thing on this other side here, and also here on this end, and also here at the bottom. And I'm gonna take my pair of scissors and I'm going to start to cut. So all you gotta do is just cut around it. So once you've finished, as you can see, we already created, let me remove the sewing pin out of the way. You created a round circle, and then you're gonna make another cut. So you're gonna cut another fleece. So you're gonna make 2 round circles, as you can see here. All right. So you're gonna have 2 round cut out fabric of fleece. And then of course, you're gonna have 2 of your outer fabric, and the lining, you're gonna do the same thing. You are going to cut 2 pieces. So you're gonna have 2 pieces of fabric. So the lining, the outer fabric, and the fleece. So next step, I have here my mat to make it easier for me to iron things on it. I'm gonna take my fusible fleece. Make sure your fusible fleece side you want is the side that is sticky. You want it facing up. So make sure it's facing up. And then we're gonna take our fabric. So making sure that the printed side is facing up and the side where it's sticky or rough is facing up. And then you're gonna align it very well. And once you align it, then you're going to give it a good press. Make sure that every corner, every end, even the middle is nicely ironed and pressed. Now that everything is nice and pressed, check to make sure that everything is really adhesive together. You can check. As you can see, it's adhesive, which is excellent. So once you have done that, any extra fleece that you see here sticking out, just take your pair of scissors and just trim it off. Okay, that's all. That's what you can do for this. trim it completely off all around, any excess fleece that is sticking out. I finished trimming all the excess fleece around the fabric, and the same thing for the second piece. I did the same thing. So once you finish ironing and trimming the excess piece from both of your outer fabric, I'm gonna now work with this piece. Take one of your lining pieces, make sure that the printed side is facing up, and then I'm gonna place the lining piece down. And then what I'm gonna do is, I'm gonna take my sewing pins and I'm going to secure, sandwich both the lining with the fleece and the outer fabric all together. And I'm gonna pin all around. But I'm going to leave, what I'm gonna do is here on top, I'm just going to pin 5 inches here on the top. And then I'm gonna leave about close to 3 inches here on both sides here open. And I'm gonna continue to pin, but I don't want to pin it too close to the fabric. I just want it a little bit away. I just want to make sure that nothing shifts, everything is secure, because then we're gonna start to sew the fabric. So let me make sure I got this here too. Okay. So what I'm gonna do is, when I take it to the sewing machine, I'm going to have these pins, as you see here, as my guide to let me know that this is the area I want not to sew. Okay, so then we're gonna take it to the sewing machine. We are going to stitch here, leave this opening, and then we're gonna stitch all around, stop here, and leave that opening. And then you're gonna do the same thing to the other piece. You are going to also prepare it as you see here. Okay. So I have both of the 2 panels prepared, the outer fabric. And again, I made sure that I left a space here, and I make sure that I had the sewing pins. So when I go to the sewing machine, I do not go over. That's happened to me where I have sewn across. And this is just gonna remind me not to sew. Again, we're gonna go to the sewing machine. We're gonna stitch here, leave the opening, go all around, and leave an opening. All right, so let's go to the sewing machine. Okay, I'm here in the sewing machine. I'm leaving this gap open. So I'm making sure I'm starting on this side here. And I'm gonna start. So the seam allowance will be 3/4 inches. Okay, finished there. Now I'm going to start to sew here in this area. As you can see, I finished stitching around. I left that opening, this side a little bit wider, and here's the other opening. I'm going to remove these sewing pins. And now what you're going to do is you can take a pair of scissors and you're going to cut out the extra fabric that is sticking out here, but just make sure that you don't cut right over your thread. So cut the extra excess because it will make it easier when we turn the fabric inside out, and it eliminates the bulk. So continue to cut out around, and again, like I said, just make sure that you don't cut right through your thread. Once you finish cutting out the extra fabric, now you're gonna do is you're gonna take the opening with a large opening here, and you're gonna turn the fabric inside out. So once you finish turning your fabric inside out, we're gonna work on folding this section of the fabric. We're gonna just turn the fabric in. And then I'm going to use my fabric clips to secure it and do the same thing. You can continue doing that, just folding it in so the lining and the outer fabric matches. Just tuck it in. And I'm going to work on this side too, just tucking it in. And the reason why we're tucking it in, because it'll make it easier to iron it. So we want to make sure we get this crease, like a more permanent crease when we iron. So it makes it easier to sew, and also it makes it easier for us to put the handles we're going to be making soon. So, all right. So now that we have that done and taken care of, I'm going to start to iron. Give it a good press. So once you finish pressing the fabric down, as you can see, I'm just gonna put back the fabric clips just to make sure that the opening here is secure. Everything is folded. Okay. And you're gonna do the same thing to the other handle. So we're gonna move on to the next step. So the next step is you need to cut out 2 pieces of fabric. This piece of fabric is going to be the side of the bag. And this piece you need to cut, of course, 34 inches long by 5 inches. And then you need to cut out 1 piece, this is for the lining, and also the same, you're going to be cutting it out 34 inches long by 5 inches. So these 2 pieces are very important. So what I'm going to do is now I'm going to take this piece of the side bag, or I should say the bottom of the bag. So I'm going to make sure the printed side is facing up, and then I'm going to take my lining and place it on top. And then I'm going to take my sewing pins and I'm going to start to pin everything, make sure everything is aligned. I'm going to pin all around, but I'm going to leave only about 5 inches of opening here in the side. So I'm going to put a pin here and another pin over here. So it helps me to remind myself that don't sew in this area, keep it open. So you're going to continue to sew all around. Once you finish pinning all around, make sure you leave about 5 or 6 inches of opening, because then once we finish stitching, we're going to turn the fabric inside out. So let's go to the sewing machine. So now I'm going to start to sew. So I'm going to make sure that, of course, my foot presser is against the fabric here. I'm going to back stitch, and hopefully you can see that I started where I left the sewing pin. As a reminder, this is where I'm going to start to sew. As you can see, we finished stitching, and of course I left an opening. I'm going to take my pair of scissors and just cut off the tip here, the ends here on all four. And again, making sure that I don't cut right through the thread, and then start to turn the fabric inside out. Once you turn the fabric inside out, now you got to take your iron and start to iron and press it down. And when you do iron, make sure that you also fold in the lining and the side fabric. So when you do iron it, it's nicely flat and it makes it easier to sew. So give it a good pressing. Once you finish ironing, pressing it very well, as you can see, the side here that is open is nicely folded. Now we're going to fold it in half and then also mark the center. So this is the center right over here. So I'm using my friction pen to make that little mark right there. I'm going to put that aside. I'm going to take one of my panel and I'm going to fold it in half also. And then same thing, try to find the center point. And here is the center. And do the same thing to the second panel here of the bag. Fold. Find the center. Here's the center. And now that I have these two panels marked. So now I need to take I have to match this marking and that marking. That's the center right over here. So now I'm gonna flip it right over, and then I'm gonna take one of my fabric clips to hold it right there, and then I'm gonna continue to start clipping all around. As you can see, I finished clipping all around because we're going to take it to the sewing machine and start to sew all around here. Okay, so let's go to the sewing machine and start sewing. Okay, I'm here in the sewing machine. Make sure that you change your stitch length because the material is going to be a little bit thicker. So I'm going to start to sew. As you can see, we finished stitching all around. I'm just turn this so you can see what it looks like on this side of the panel of the bag. So this is going to be creating the bottom part. And look how nicely it's becoming. Okay, so now I'm just going to flip this back. And now, remember I made that little marking in the bottom on both of the panel. So that's going to help me to center the middle. So I'm going to attach but align both of these lines. And again, start to add my fabric clips and start to clip this all around. So as you can see, I finished clipping all around, and then we are going to the sewing machine and we're going to do the same thing. We are going to stitch all around. Okay, again here, and I'm going to start to sew. Back stitch to secure. So as you can see, we finished stitching the second panel. Now I'm going to turn the fabric inside out. Like when I turn it inside out, here's the bottom of the bag. Very nice. Is coming along. So the next step we are going to be focusing on is how to make the handle. All right, and once we finish working on the handles, then we are going, so let's move to the next step. The next step, you need to cut out 2 pieces of fabric. So the fabric that I use for the bottom of the bag, I'm gonna use for the handles. And the size you're gonna be cutting the handles is, of course, is 29 inches by 4 inches. And remember, you're gonna be cutting 2. So once you finish cutting 2, then we're gonna move on to the next step. So our next step is, I'm going to place the printed side facing down, and I have it here lying on my wool mat, and make sure that your iron is nicely hot. So I'm gonna fold the fabric in half and give it a good press. So once you're finishing pressing the fabric, you're gonna open it up. And we created a crease right here in the center. Now, we're gonna use that crease in the center as our guide. So when we fold here again, we're gonna make sure that it's lining against the crease that we created. All right, and then we are going to give it a nice press. So now that we finish making that fold and we created another crease here, now I'm just gonna turn this around and I'm gonna do the same thing to this side. I'm gonna fold it, give it a good press. So now we have 1, 2, 3 creases that we created. Now that the fold has been created, now we're gonna refold it again. And then we're gonna give it a nice good press with our iron. So we finished doing that, and we have our fold. Look what it looks like. Fold it and refold again. I'm gonna give it a little press, a good press here, right here. Okay, so once you do that, you're gonna do the same thing to your other handle, the other strap. And then we're gonna take it to the sewing machine, and then we are going to sew from here, go all the way here on the top, cross over, and then sew all the way down. And we're gonna do that for both of the handles here. So let's head on to the sewing machine. So we're here at the sewing machine, and I'm going to start to stitch. Back stitch. So once you finish sewing your strap, you're going to take the body of the bag, and where we created that opening here, you're going to insert the strap, and of course I am going to use the fabric clips to hold it. Make sure, and also make sure when you turn it's aligned. And again, I'm gonna place it here. And put that, as you can see, just make sure that the strap is even. And then you're gonna do the same thing. You flip it over, make sure everything is aligned. So once both handles are aligned and are even, as you can see over here, we're gonna take it to the sewing machine. You're gonna first sew this end first, and we're gonna start from here and sew here. So a couple of times here to secure the handle. Sew, continue to sew, and sew several times and sew. You're gonna do that for both sides. So let's head over to the sewing machine. So we're here in the sewing machine, and then I'm gonna start to sew. Back stitch. So what you can do is you could go back and sew this several times and do the same thing to this one strap, sew it several times to secure it. And you're going to do the same thing to the other side. As you can see, we finished making our bag. It's really cute. It's simple, has a nice round two in the bottom, and of course the handle matches the side of the bag. This is very cute. So we have completed our sewing project. So I hope everyone enjoyed this tutorial. If you enjoyed the tutorial, please give it a thumbs up, share with your friends and your family. And also, if you're not a subscriber, you can click on the subscribe button. And also, if you click on the bell, YouTube will notify you every time I upload a new video. But this is a great, simple, like I mentioned before in my introduction, this is a great way for you to get ideas and to revamp this sewing bag that we have completed today. And also, I just want to make a note, in the description box below, I listed all the tools and materials needed, and also a link where you can purchase the items. So until next time, bye everybody.